A famous businessman, Aaron's life changes completely when he has an accidental encounter with an alien girl. While driving his way out of the city, he receives a call from his doctor who tells him to be careful about the upcoming rain. The man seems to have some mysterious affinity with rain as he gets worried and loses control of the vehicle. Aaron meets an accident and falls at the roadside with his car totally upturned. While he's unconscious, a beautiful girl approaches him. She only has a shawl wrapped around her body, and it's revealed that she's an alien who has come from another planet. The girl named Celeste uses her powers to heal the handsome person and notices that his car is about to explode. Celeste places herself between the car and the man and takes the blow of the car explosion that sends her flying to a lake nearby. Not only that, the explosion causes her to throw up a bit of her blue blood and the blue stone from her necklace at the unconscious person. When Aaron wakes up in his room, his doctor tells him about his accident and that he's safe. On the other hand, Celeste gets out of the lake and tries to find out about her location. Her turtle guide tells her to use her enunciator, which is the blue stone, to call people from her planet, but the girl has unfortunately lost it. She figures that it must be with the person whom she saved last night and realizes that she's stranded on Earth until she finds her enunciator. The blue stone is her key to call her spaceship to fetch her back to her planet. After leaving the hospital, Aaron encounters a bunch of women claiming to be his girlfriends outside his office and meets everyone individually. He offers each of them some monetary benefits in exchange for being left alone, and the girls leave happily after getting what they wanted. Aaron's assistant shows him Celeste's blood drop, which is turned into a stone, and tells him that it was found on him. Aaron sends it for research to the forensic department. Celeste doesn't have clothes to change into, so she goes to a boutique and tries on their dresses using her powers. She likes a wedding dress and changes into it before running away without paying for it. On her way to escape, she suddenly gets some flashbacks from the accident last night and squats down in the middle of the road out of fear. In a matter of seconds, a car approaches her at full speed, and she uses her ability to stop time to get out of the way safely. She then resumes the time operations, unaware that while the rest of the world did stop, the person driving that car stayed very much active and aware of the shocking environment. This person was none other than Aaron, who took this phenomenon as his hallucination. Celeste goes to a restaurant and orders a lot of alcohol. She sees a young man named Brian and mistakes him to be the person whom she saved the previous night. However, Brian is taken away by Aaron's assistant because he's his half-brother. On the other hand, Celeste gets too drunk and faints in the arms of the lady boss of the restaurant. Aisha, who's the restaurant owner, has no option but to bring the rich-looking girl to her home because she's yet to pay the huge bill for the food and alcohol she ordered. However, her hopes are shattered when she learns that Celeste has nothing to pay with, and in fact, might be insane due to her talks about space and other planets. With no way to recover her money, Aisha hires her as the delivery girl when Celeste promises to pay back with her services. Celeste starts working as the restaurant's delivery girl and keeps using her powers to teleport or stop time to avoid having to cross the road. Her stunts are coincidentally seen by Aaron, and he starts worrying about his mental health. It's revealed that he's facing partial amnesia after experiencing his mother's death on a rainy day. So every time it rains, he forgets about the girl he would be dating at the moment. Celeste teleports herself outside Brian's home, where he's locked by his brother to complete a painting. But Brian requests her to help him escape, so she lets him escape in her delivery outfit, while she herself sits in his place until Aaron comes to check on his brother. Aaron asks her about his brother's whereabouts, but she manages to escape. However, the CEO uses her restaurant's food boxes to find the name of her workplace and asks his assistant to find the place. When Celeste goes back to the restaurant, she finds her delivery dress and a card left behind by Brian, who has invited her to a restaurant. At night, Celeste finds the restaurant to be empty because the whole place is booked by Aaron. She tries to run away, but Aisha sends her back to take his order because he's a VIP customer who requested her services specifically. Celeste has to go back to take his order, and Aaron orders all of their dishes. Unfortunately, she doesn't even know how to turn on the stove and has to be saved by Aaron, who helps her put out the fire. She figures that Aaron is the man whom she rescued and gets too infatuated with his strong body, unconsciously telling him about Brian's location. After Aaron leaves to get his brother, she immediately runs to the place to notify the young man about his brother, but he seems too nonchalant about it and even asks her to relax and have a meal with him. Celeste agrees happily and they soon become friends. She reveals that since she's an alien, her skin is too sensitive to get in a direct touch with a human, therefore she always wears gloves. Soon, the pair is approached by Brian's brother, and Celeste feels a strong pull towards him once again. She smells her enunciator on the man but figures that he's not carrying it on himself, so she cries and begs him to let her accompany them, saying she can't bear to part with Brian. And just like a good friend, Brian goes along with her drama, crying even more pitifully than her. Aaron is left with no choice but to agree and let her go to their home. Celeste starts looking for her enunciator once everyone settles down for the night. Eventually, she reaches Aaron's room upon not finding it anywhere else and happens to find him taking a bath. She rummages around his room and puts everything back to its place before leaving hurriedly to avoid getting caught by him. When Aaron comes out of the bathroom, he finds his books a bit disordered but takes it as his overthinking and goes to sleep. However, Celeste is not yet done looking around and sneaks back in once he's asleep. However, she's caught red-handed and thrown out of the house by the overbearing CEO. Aaron even tells his brother strictly that he's not allowed to date her. We then see Aaron's mother, who colludes with her brother to throw Aaron out of the business and make her own son company's chairman. For this, they decide to use his amnesia and invite a girl named Clara. On the other hand, Aisha sends Celeste to Aaron's company to get him to sign a lunchbox deal. The alien girl stops time to enter the lift right before the doors get closed. She fails to notice Aaron, who's left speechless, and considering this his hallucination. When he reaches his office, the disorganization gives Celeste its presence in his workspace. The girl ties his hands from the back and asks him about her enunciator, but he has no idea about what she's talking about. Celeste leaves angrily when she fails to get anything out of him. Aaron tells his step-uncle to make an excuse of his absence when he's told about Clara's arrival, and goes to the laboratory to check on the bluestone that he had sent over. However, he fails to learn anything because Luke calls him to the parking lot, where Clara broke his car's windscreen and arrogantly offers him a compensation, saying she just wanted to see him once because her father sent her to him with that purpose. Aaron asks his assistant to keep an eye on her, and we see Brian's flashback, which reveals that he was once well acquainted with the girl. The memories make him sad, and he goes to Aisha's restaurant and ends up getting drunk. Celeste tries to help him, but he mistakes her for Clara and holds her hands. Celeste isn't wearing gloves, so her whole body starts trembling, and she goes to hide in the basement. Meanwhile, Aaron traces Brian's location and gets his assistant to take the drunk boy home. He also finds Celeste, who's trembling with cold, and tries to take her to the hospital, but she stubbornly refuses and instead hugs him for some warmth. Seeing him still attempting to convince her, Celeste kisses him to silence. With no other choice, Aaron ends up staying the night while letting her hug him. Next day, he inquires about the reason for her condition, but she makes an excuse of being exposed to the freezer for too long. Later, she finds a picture of them sleeping together in Aisha's phone and wonders how her body's low temperature didn't affect him. She immediately goes to his office to touch him one more time to see if he's an alien like her. In the office building's lobby, she meets the two brothers where Brian is beaten by his brother and held by his collar to resume the painting that Aaron ordered him to make. Finding it to be the right opportunity, Celeste immediately jumps to hug him, which gives Brian the chance to run away. Aaron angrily pins her to a wall in the lobby, giving everyone the wrong impression. On the other hand, Celeste tries to use her powers to stop time and escape, but nothing happens. Bewildered, she asks him if he's also another planet spy like her, or if he has something to do with her enunciator. Aaron takes her for a lunatic and sarcastically tells her to go back to her planet. He then goes to see Clara as a client and promises to reward her well if Brian's painting wins the competition. He has a feeling that he may have met her before the girl rubbishes his doubt, saying it's their second meeting. On the other hand, Celeste goes to meet Brian, who makes her portrait to lift her mood, although it doesn't turn out to be that good. The portrait is sent to Aaron, and he decides to keep the girl away from his brother, so he tells Luke to order food from their restaurant. His brother admires him greatly, and even gets in an argument with his mother if she tries to badmouth him, so he angrily leaves after one such session, and his mother finds Brian and Clara's couple photo in his wallet. Next day, Celeste sets out to deliver the order to Aaron's office, but fails to ride the scooty properly, and all the food bags fall into a manhole. She jumps in the manhole to retrieve the food bags and finds Aaron standing there when she finally came out. Turns out, he was curious about the rider's location that was stuck on the same location for half an hour and came to check on her. Celeste rushes to deliver the food to avoid getting penalty, but the boss drags her to a boutique first to get rid of the smell on her body. She hurries to take a bath and pauses the time to reach his office before the time limit for delivery is over. However, Aaron is unaffected by the time pause and catches her running on the road, trying to seek an explanation for the unreal situation. But she manages to make a fool of him and runs back to the boutique's bathroom, pretending that she never left the place. Aaron rushes back to the bathroom to see if he just had a hallucination or if she has really left. He opens the bathroom door and finds her there. Celeste blames him for being a peeping Tom, and poor, exasperated CEO throws his car keys at her as a payment to keep this matter under the wraps. Aaron immediately goes to his therapist, saying he's having strange hallucinations. His therapist suggests that he stays closer to the girl whom he finds moving in those times. Aisha thinks that Aaron gifted his car to Celeste because he likes her, Celeste instantly decides to return the vehicle in that case and goes to his office telling him she can't accept his feelings. Her words are heard by a table full of people who were engaged in a video conference with him. This prompts him to shut the laptop down and clarify that he doesn't have feelings for her. Although relieved, she refuses to leave until he's eaten and force feeds him. Aaron pretends to be angry but finds it heartwarming after she leaves. However, he starts feeling sick because he's allergic to seafood. In that condition, he's approached by Clara, and we discover that they have had a connection in the past, but soon Celeste comes back to return the car keys. She carries him on her back and rushes to the hospital where he's given the first aid before she's made to leave by Aaron's assistant. When Aaron's father hears about his hospitalization, he agrees with his wife that they need to get a detailed examination of Aaron's body. Poor guy thinks she cares about his son when in fact it's her plan to expose his son's vulnerabilities. Celeste brings food to the hospital and scratches the CEO's back on request until the doctor arrives, making her leave. On her way out, she turns back to ask her patron about what he'd like for lunch for the next day and finds the door locked. Inside, Aaron remembers that the pair of doctor and the nurse are strangers to him and gets in a fight to avoid taking the injection that the fake doctor is trying to inject in his body. Celeste breaks the door lock and saves him, making the fake health workers run away. She then stays with him for some time before returning to the restaurant and tells Aisha that he got sick because of their food. The restaurant owner gets scared of the consequences and asks her to spend more time with the CEO so that the news won't reach the media. Taking the advice literally, the alien girl reaches the hospital with her bedding and stays the night in his room because somehow Aaron likes her presence and lets her stay. However, next day they both wake up in the same bed when she clearly slept on the floor. Her frantic actions amuse him, but he asks her how she'd feel if someone suddenly forgets about her. The alien girl tells him that people on her planet keep their memories saved in a cloud storage and only forget about someone when they have the intention to do so. Therefore, if someone decides to erase her from their memories, she'll do the same for them. Hearing this, he instructs her to forget about him too if he doesn't come back to her till evening. After leaving the hospital, he instructs his assistant to get a memory bank developed for him, but Luke tells him that it's already available, he just doesn't use it. So Aaron goes to his memory bank and stores his memories with Celeste there. Soon after, his doctor James also comes there and tells him to leave the city for the time being because there's rain forecasted for the next day. On the other hand, Brian gets approached by Clara, who takes him to a restaurant, making him follow her even when he looks upset. It's revealed that Clara used him to befriend Aaron in the past. In the present, Clara has gotten a spy to infiltrate the place of Aaron's memory bank to avoid getting her recent memories erased from his memory bank. Back at the restaurant, Aisha leaves some money in the restaurant in Celeste's hands and leaves for her hometown to avoid the media. Celeste's guide turtle suggests that she ask Aaron to give a statement in their restaurant's favor, but she fails to talk to him. Next day, the restaurant is swarmed with media and protesters demanding for the place to be closed down, but she faces them courageously. Celeste tries to clarify that Aaron had an allergic reaction and that there was nothing wrong with their food. When Aaron hears the news, he heads to the restaurant and tells the media about his allergy before taking her away from that place. Celeste scolds him for ignoring her for the past few days after they come to a beach. Instead of giving a justification, Aaron simply hugs her, but the magic of the moment is soon broken by rain. While Celeste enjoys the downpour, Aaron seems to be reminded of something horrible as he sits down on the ground and covers his ears. He demands to meet James after going home, but it's revealed that the doctor is out of town for a day. His conversation with Luke reveals that he remembers Celeste but nothing else. On the other hand, Aisha returns to the restaurant and has practically started fangirling over Celeste and Aaron's pair. Aaron tries to probe Celeste to see if she has something to do with the change in his forgetting history, but then dismisses the idea, thinking nothing extraordinary happened between them. However, James encourages to pursue the girl since she's the first girl whom he remembers, despite having met tens of them. Celeste uses her first salary to shop around, including 2 dolls for Aaron and Brian. The CEO finds this gift a bit funny and cute at the same time. Aaron has been trying to get Brian's paintings on an exhibition, and for that purpose he has been treating him strictly as well. But he receives his assistant's call, who tells him that Brian's mother has convinced the organizer to cancel the exhibition, saying her son is being forced to do this. Aaron confirms it with his brother and gets happy when he expresses that he's now determined to do this. He then tries to use his connections to get Brian's name back on the list of exhibitioners, but no one seems to be of help. Celeste convinces him to let her meet the foreign investor once and indeed manages to convince the man to take his decision back and stay to attend the exhibition. After sending Mr. Mike off, she's left with having to bring the drunk CEO back to his home. However, Aaron starts crying while missing his mother and she ends up staying with him. In the morning, he wakes up in a different attire from last night and thinks that something might have happened between him and Celeste, but turns out that he threw up on himself, so Luke had to come to his rescue. During breakfast, the trio thinks about ways to help Brian with inspiration, and Celeste takes the responsibility on herself. On the other hand, Clara asks Aaron to treat her to a meal to celebrate Mr. Mike's stay, and he brings her to Aisha's restaurant. Contrary to his expectations, the alien girl doesn't look jealous to see him with another girl, and in fact urges them to get engaged in some fun couple activities. The CEO feels bad about it, and even tries to take all of the restaurant's couple dolls away when she says that she plans to give a pair of them to Brian. However, he's unable to sense his own jealousy and finally leaves for home after Aisha calms both of them down. At home, he's visited by his stepmother who pretends to care about him, but intentionally reminds him of some bad memories, including his mother's death on a rainy night. It is revealed that she wanted to divorce his father and left home in the middle of the night with her son. As the panic attack gets worse, Luke asks the older lady to leave and suggests his boss to pay heed to James's advice, which is staying closer to Celeste. Aaron's condition becomes stable after some time, but he doesn't get to relax for long because Mr. Mike decides to leave the country after being misguided by Brian's mother once again. Meanwhile, Brian is about to complete his painting and asks Celeste to keep an eye on the door to prevent anyone from peeking at it. When the alien girl comes to know about the artist's departure, she tells Aaron to bring Brian over to the man and leaves ahead of them to use her powers and create an accident-like scenario with Mike's car. Mike gets worried about the accident when actually she used her powers to stop time and fall in front of his vehicle, but this gives Aaron enough time to catch up with the foreigner. He is accompanied by Brian, who shows his completed painting to Mike, earning his approval and willingness to stay back. After successfully completing the mission, Aaron casually proposes to Celeste to be his girlfriend on their way back. This earns him James's disapproval, who tells him that he should have been more tactful about the question. Celeste, too, is left dumbstruck by the question and hurries back to the restaurant to share this with Aisha. As expected, the boss lady encourages her to accept the proposal, but after finding her not convinced, she tells her to take some time and refuse later politely to avoid damaging their friendship. Next day, Aaron's research team tells him that the sapphire found near his body at the night of the accident isn't found anywhere else on the Earth. The discovery makes him excited, and he instructs James to continue the research. On the other hand, Celeste senses her Annunciator's presence, which is inside Aaron's research department, and hurries to rush inside the lab using her special powers. However, her powers can't help her enter the place, and she returns to her guide turtle, who suggests taking Brian's help. Brian brings her over to the company, and they sneak inside the lab because even Brian isn't allowed to enter the place without an ID card, which he doesn't have. Celeste finally finds her Annunciator and tries to pick it from the glass locker, but doing so triggers the security alarm and they both get caught by Aaron. Brian takes the blame on himself to protect Celeste from his scolding. His excuse that he needed inspiration for his painting calms his brother down, and he's allowed to leave. After sending him away, Aaron inquires Celeste about her decision and decides to slowly woo her upon finding her indecisive about it. He spends a whole night reading romance novels to learn how to pursue a girl. Next day, Celeste is surprised with a bouquet of flowers during her service hours at the restaurant. She's asked out on a date, but pretends to be extremely busy, which makes the CEO sad, but he doesn't let it show. Instead, he asks his assistant to clear his schedule for the next day. His reason is revealed when Clara finds 2 tickets for the Space Museum show on his office table. Celeste helps Brian with the details of the Annunciator when he asks her to explain how it looks so that he can paint it and place it in his exhibition. The final product does look a bit like her Annunciator, but she doesn't know how to get it back. Her attention is soon diverted by a massive order of 1,000 coffee cups that is placed by Aaron to help boost the sales of her restaurant. With Aisha unavailable, Celeste takes Brian's help to fulfill the order, but it still takes them quite a long time. She checks the customer's name and address just to make sure that it's not a prank, and Brian immediately escapes the place upon finding out that the address is his brother's company. Celeste finally completes the order and brings a cup of coffee to Aaron as well, who tries to impress her by telling her that he intentionally ordered from her place to help their restaurant. However, the poor boy is set to be disappointed because she not only disapproves of his effort, but also clearly rejects his proposal. Her inner monologue reveals that she likes him, but thinks that he's a playboy. Aaron has to visit James and tells him to prescribe a medicine with stronger dosage for him, even when the psychologist tries to convince him out of it. Their meeting is captured by Kang, who is Aaron's stepmother's brother, and he seems to be cooking up something. On the other hand, Luke goes to Celeste and tells her about Aaron's condition, asking her to help him, to which she agrees. He gives her the tickets to the Space Museum, and she visits the place the next day, finding things fascinating that remind her of Aaron. She instantly goes to Aaron's company, who is being interrogated about his mental health by his father because he received his photos with the psychologist. Celeste rushes into the room and introduces herself as his girlfriend before telling the older man that he was meeting with the psychologist for her. Aaron's long list of past girlfriends isn't a secret for anyone, so she sounds authentic, and Mr. Liu scolds him to mend his ways before leaving the place. While his stepmom and her brother look disappointed by the failure of their plan, Brian congratulates the couple before stepping out of his office. Poor guy looked a bit sad because he had started to develop feelings for her. Now, alone in the office, Celeste suggests pretending to be in a relationship to help cure his illness, and Aaron discovers that she doesn't exactly know that he has amnesia. This calms him down from the initial panic when he thinks she's aware of his condition. He then takes her shopping and gets her a makeover to make her likable for his father, who's a status-conscious person. After going back to her room, Celeste wonders if her decision to be Aaron's fake girlfriend is wrong, but Kubri, her turtle, tells her otherwise. He even suggests that she can take this chance to find her enunciator, and she seems to like the suggestion. Next day, Aaron gives her a digital introduction of his family members to make her familiar with them. She discovers that his father is a strong-minded businessman, and she needs to be cautious around his stepmom, who wants to replace Aaron with Brian. For Kang, he's a dangerous man, and she must avoid him at all costs. As for Brian, she already knows him. Aaron then asks her about her family and gets shocked to hear her say that she was born out of an egg. Celeste immediately covers it up, saying she's an orphan, and requests him to arrange a job for her, which he does. Next, she tells Aisha about her job switch, and the older lady kindly accepts her decision. After that, Aaron brings her to his home to officially introduce to his father and to show his sincerity to the relationship. The father-son duo has an argument where Mr. Liu looks reluctant to accept the girl, but he agrees for his son's sake. However, he places a condition that they won't make their relationship public for the time being, and Aaron listens to him. Celeste too deals with Mrs. Liu's scheming words quite cleverly and leaves her speechless. She joins his office starting the next day, but finds it hard to not get attracted to her handsome boss. Aaron checks on her to see how her first day at work is going, and she asks to be placed in the research lab, saying she finds it interesting. He agrees to the request and takes her to a restaurant for dinner. They bump into Clara on their way out, who asks to be dropped off along the way, and Aaron can't deny her. After reaching her home, Aaron politely requests Clara to forget the blind date they had at Aisha's restaurant and tells her that he likes Celeste. Clara gets sad to hear this but doesn't say anything. Aaron then returns to Celeste's residence on finding out that she forgot her phone in his car and brings her some medicine along. Despite all the care, he promises not to spoil her with his care when she expresses her fear of getting used to the treatment. Next day, Luke tasks Celeste with bringing a file to the research lab to Dr. Colton. She happily does as told and rummages through the file to find some information about her enunciator. She discovers that the stone is called Sapphire and inquires about it with the doctor at the research lab. The doctor gets busy with finding a file in the cabinet, and she discreetly slips the small box carrying her enunciator into her bag before being taken away by Aaron. Dr. Colton immediately notices the missing stone and follows the couple to the exhibition. Celeste keeps trying to escape from Aaron's side, but he doesn't let her go and brings her to Brian's exhibition. There, they meet Clara, who requests Aaron to stay friends, and he doesn't find anything wrong with her suggestion. Colton soon reaches there and tells Aaron about the matter, including how Celeste lied to see the sapphire. Aaron inquires with her about the stone, and Colton interjects, saying he wishes to check her bag. His suggestion offends the boss, but Celeste agrees to it, and pauses time to place the stone in Aaron's pocket before resuming it. She then goes on to dump all the contents of her bag on the floor. After this, she hurriedly leaves the corridor, prompting Aaron to follow her and apologize. They find themselves in a room, and Celeste fails to retrieve the sapphire box from his coat pocket, despite several tries. So she pretends to admire his body by feeling his muscles, and situation quickly escalates to them being an inch away from a kiss. However, he shows self-control and leaves after giving her his coat to protect against the cold. She immediately takes out the small box and hides it under a flower pot before quickly following him out. On the other hand, Mr. Liu finds out that the photograph sent to him containing James and Aaron's picture was sent by Mrs. Liu. He not only scolds her for her vile nature, but also declares that Brian won't join the business ever because his mother can't be trusted with the evils she'd do to get rid of her stepson. The evil lady begs for forgiveness, but he walks away. On the other hand, Brian's uncle comes to him in a panicked state and says that his mother is severely ill, causing him to leave the exhibition midway to rush to her side. Kang's intentions are to destroy the exhibition to prohibit Brian from continuing his art practice. and he achieves it by setting fire that quickly engulfs the gallery. People hurry to vacate the place, but Celeste runs in the opposite direction to find and save Brian. However, she ends up fainting due to suffocation and gets rescued by Aaron, who brings her out of the building and gives her a CPR. Brian runs to his mother's side only to find out that she has a mild headache because of his father's decision to not let him into the business. The news actually makes him delighted, but his peace is short-lived because he soon receives a call that tells him about the fire and Celeste's condition due to her effort to save him. He anxiously drives to his brother's home and finds her as Brian. In the morning, Celeste looks happy and thanks Aaron for saving her life. Turns out that she too has fallen for the man. She hurries to find her annunciator at the exhibition hall after the CEO leaves for work, but gets stunned to not find a single trace of the sapphire in the room. After a lot of searching around, she leaves disappointed. Soon after she leaves, Colton comes there to look for some clues as well. He finds out that Celeste has been to the place and sneaks into the room where she was looking for her annunciator. There, he finds a blue stone similar to the annunciator, which is a dried drop of her blood from yesterday, and takes it away. He goes to meet Clara, and their conversation reveals that he works for her, and he's the person who saved her data in Aaron's memory bank. Colton asks her to get the exhibition's CCTV footage and shows her a recording from the lab, which shows Celeste watching the sapphire intently. On the other hand, Aaron instructs Luke to stop the investigations if anyone approaches them with some information about the sapphire. He then buys food for the girl at his home, but finds her extremely dispirited and gets worried that she's sick. Turns out that she's stressed, and she requests more food because her metabolism works faster when in stress. She changes into his shirt, which he finds very distracting, and invites him to a drink at night. Aaron accepts the offer, and they have beer sitting at the poolside. The girl admits how she loves the people of this planet more because no one likes her back at her own planet. Not to mention, she's considered very poor there. Aaron takes her blabbering to be her imagination and keeps listening to her attentively. Next day, he announces his plans of handing the sapphire thief to the police on the breakfast table, making her gulp in fear. She discusses the matter with Kubri, who suggests that she tells him the whole truth that will make her position clear in Aaron's eyes. Celeste likes the idea and decides to act on it in the evening. At Mr. Liu's home, Mrs. Liu apologizes to the man and requests him to take the decision back. Mr. Liu cares about Brian as well, so he gives him the choice between business and art. However, Mrs. Liu angrily scolds the young man for choosing art when she took so many risks for him, including fire at his exhibition. Her unintentional reveal hurts him a lot, and he storms out of there to go to his brother's home. There, he apologizes to Celeste for putting her life at risk, but she brushes it away, relieving him of the guilt. When Aaron comes back, he finds her happily seeing off his younger brother and feels a bit jealous. Celeste asks him if he found the sapphire and tries to tell him the truth. However, he misunderstands her words like something that he considers his property might not be his. He thinks she's talking about belonging herself to Brian and not him, so he declares his possessiveness by claiming not to give up easily, and they share an unexpected kiss. With feelings involved, Celeste seems happy about the kiss. Aaron is approached by Clara at his office next day, and she shows him the CCTV footage from the room where Celeste can be seen hiding the sapphire under the flower plant. Although angry, he prohibits her from sharing the video with anyone and goes to confront Celeste. She doesn't tell him her reason and only says that the stone is extremely important for her. Aaron is bound by his feelings for her, so he doesn't take any action against her and asks Luke to close the research project for good. We then see a meeting between Clara and Colton, which reveals the deal between them. After successfully marrying the CEO, Clara will help make Colton the head of research department in exchange of keeping her memories in the memory bank. Colton suspects that Celeste is aware of the sapphire's real value, but Clara brushes it away. Celeste, on the other hand, wonders about ways to go back to her planet since she has lost the Annunciator. Kubri informs her that her death can send a signal to her planet, and they will come fetch her body. Since their planet is so advanced, they'll find a way to revive her there. Hearing this, she tries several ways to die, including jumping from a tall building, touching wires, and taking lots of Cyprian ping pills. But nothing works. She finally decides to starve herself to death and stays hungry for several days in a row. Even Aisha fails to convince her to eat, so she informs Aaron's assistant about her strange stubbornness. Aaron expresses Colton CE about her hunger strike, but Luke informs him that she also tries to end her life, which makes him panic. He rushes to her home and angry tells her to resign if she wishes to die because she's his employee, and such incident will damage his company's reputation. On the other hand, Brian agrees to join the company on a condition that his mother will stay away from Aaron and Celeste. He goes to work next day and made the development head of a project. Celeste too goes to office to submit her resignation, but Aaron refuses to accept it, saying she signed the contract to stay in service for 5 years. He claims that if she leaves before that, his company has the right to sell Aisha's restaurant to recover the penalty because she's a shareholder in her restaurant. Celeste has no other choice but to angrily leave his office because she can't bear to put Aisha's restaurant in danger. She meets Brian outside his office, who tells her about his position in the company while she shares her dilemma of being forced to work for his brother. Brian consoles her and offers to transfer her to his project if she continues to find it hard. However, she tries to get kicked out of work by acting arrogant in front of her boss, such as refusing to complete the tasks or throwing files in front of him to sign instead of placing them nicely. Her schemes are seen through, and she gets teased back instead of getting fired. Aaron even tells her to accompany him to meet James, and she has to obey. On the way there, Luke tries to bring them closer and intentionally takes sharp turns, making her fall in Aaron's lap. Even James notices a sour air between them and offers his counseling to help sort their relationship. They play a question and answer game, and he asks them about their first kiss. While Celeste writes their first kiss to be beside the pool, Aaron mentions the kiss in the storeroom, which she has no memory about. She even angrily leaves, thinking he took advantage of her unconscious state. However, she meets Luke on her way out, who plays the character of best wingman ever and advocates for Aaron. She gets to know about the soft side that the man only shows for her because he never took leave from work for any of his past girlfriends, nor did he care about them the way he did for her. Luke then traps her emotionally that he can only fall in love with her, and avoiding it will only worsen his situation. Since the alien girl has started to fall for the man too, she reluctantly goes back to James's place, but finds that Aaron has already left. So she asks James about the worst that may happen if Aaron's illness gets worse. James doesn't give her much details except saying that she needs to make him feel special and worthy of love if she doesn't wish for something really bad to happen to him. So she praises the man next day, but he thinks that this is another of her tactics to convince him to accept her resignation letter. To show her sincerity and compliments, Celeste pulls him to sit down and starts massaging his forehead, which slowly turns into his shoulders before she starts feeling his abdominal muscles. Aaron tells her that her resignation letter will still not be approved, causing her to step away in distaste. Next morning, he's challenged by the girl to jog all the way to the office and accepts it smugly. He soon leaves her far behind, making her jealous, and she decides to use her power, but gets interrupted by Aaron, who comes back to help her cross the road since she always feels nervous about it. His care makes her confess her feelings indirectly, and Aaron also admits that he doesn't hold her accountable for the sapphire because it must have been really important for her if she stole it. Their interaction is watched by Colton and Clara, who doesn't like their closeness, and instructs Colton to make the news about Sapphire public. Colton publishes the news of theft with Celeste's images from the footage on the company's official website. The article is soon discovered by most of the employees, but Celeste remains oblivious and plans to go on a date with Aaron. She drags him to a bar to watch a model show, but he secretly gets the show canceled. Seeing this, she goes to the stage to sing a song for him and quotes it as "For My Boyfriend." She's soon joined by the handsome boss himself, and they give quite a performance before stepping out of the place. Outside, she praises him for looking like Brian on the stage. This triggers his jealousy, and situation gets worse when she reveals that her reason for agreeing to be his girlfriend is James's statement about his disorder. Aaron gets offended at the idea that she doesn't consider him anything more than a patient, and angrily storms away after instructing her to never show her face to him. Next day, Celeste is ignored by her colleagues but fails to notice the reason until Brian drags her away to a secluded corner and tells her about the article on company's website. Her reaction confirms to him that she actually stole the sapphire, but he comforts her, telling her to stay calm. On the other hand, Luke worriedly reveals to her that Aaron ordered to keep her away from his cabin, and she angrily claims to have the same plans anyway. Her colleagues start bullying her into completing their tasks when they discover that she's being ignored by the boss. One of them even orders her to buy food, so she goes and gets it parceled from Aisha's restaurant. However, she finds the entire office empty on returning back with the food. Luke encourages her to eat the food herself since all the employees are sent away on an urgent task, so she pays heed to the advice and finishes all of it. With nothing else to do, she falls asleep in her seat and only wakes up at night when Aaron comes out of his cabin to call it a day. She declines his offer to drop her home and walks her way back, unaware that he's following her in his car and enjoying her childish antics. Aaron is delighted to see her walk the zebra crossing after a bit of the struggle. Next morning, Clara visits Celeste at the restaurant and tells her to resign from the company because her theft has caused Aaron a lot of defamation, as he took the blame on himself. When she reaches office, her bad mood gets worse when her colleague accuses her of stealing her files. Celeste demands an apology for her, but everyone gangs up against her. Meanwhile, Luke briefs Aaron about the situation as he recently discovered about the article. Aaron instructs him to take down the article and label it as a prank before rushing off to her side. He walks in on his staff telling her to quit the job and gives everyone a harsh scolding, admitting that the sapphire got lost due to his negligence and that the stuff on the website is nothing more than a rumor. The rude colleagues are made to apologize to her before being left on a warning. He then brings Celeste to his cabin, and she reveals her reason of not telling him anything about it to be his ending everything with her. Aaron confesses that to be a false declaration and tells her that she's not allowed to leave. He also complains about her habit of running to Brian for help instead of him, and the couple ends up having another argument due to his jealousy. Mr. Liu also gets to hear about the episode of sapphire theft and calls Aaron home to inquire about the matter. The young man repeats what he said in the office, labeling the article to be a rumor. Mr. Liu still demands her termination, but Aaron convinces him on transferring her to another department. Celeste discovers next day that she's now a part of Brian's team and furiously confronts Aaron about his decision. She demands to stay back, and even Brian helps her convince his brother, but he doesn't agree, saying she's always found running off to Brian anyway. Celeste angrily storms out of his office with Brian, who tries to calm her down, saying he'll offer her better duties. He then brings her to his office and tasks her with signing a bunch of files with Brian's signature. He reveals that reading those files is boring, and he feels this Brian piece, so she agrees to the tasks and practices his signature on a paper until she masters it. The duo then attends a meeting where Aaron reviews the project proposals, and Brian's proposal faces criticism for being outdated. Aaron gives his team a week's time to bring new perfume samples, and Brian immediately leaves for an island with Celeste. He tells her that he met a perfume master at the island during one of his painting sprees, and describes him to be fantastic. Celeste likes his idea. Soon after, Aaron hears about their destination, and immediately leaves after them because the island is forecasted to have a typhoon approaching its neighboring island. Luke tries to keep him from taking this rash decision as he may lose his memories, but he doesn't pay heed to his words. When Brian and Celeste reach the island, they soon notice a change in the weather and she starts feeling cold. Brian asks her to stay under a tree while he goes to look for the perfume master. James anxiously finds her at the island and wraps her in his coat, complaining about her carelessness. That's when he confesses his love for her, and Celeste finds his chest glowing. She discovers that the Annunciator is inside his body and instantly clings to him despite Brian's several attempts to peel her off his brother. The trio then heads to the perfume master's house and stays the night there. Brian intentionally lies between Celeste and his brother, but the couple finds him too irritating, and Aaron rolls him over to the bed at the farthest side, making her laugh out loud. Next day, she discovers that she can't feel her Annunciator's presence anymore, so she tries different methods to make it come out again. She brings him to the tree where she felt the Annunciator's presence first, and asks him to keep the car windows open to let wind in, but nothing works in her favor. On the other hand, Brian receives the perfume samples from the master, including a special perfume that has Daisy as its ingredient, a symbol of love. The perfume master is surprised at his observation. Meanwhile, Clara and Colton meet again, and he reveals that he has hacked a portion of Aaron's memory bank. The memories that he has access to is only 1% of the total, which disappoints Clara, who is hoping to erase all of Celeste's memories. The pair then hatches another scheme. When Aaron and Celeste return to the perfume master's home, Brian runs away while holding her hand to try food from a famous local restaurant. On her way there, she's still occupied by her Annunciator and suddenly realizes that the reason can be Aaron's rapid heartbeat. They soon reach the restaurant, which is a couple restaurant, and has a deal going on to get free dessert for writing their names on the board. Celeste instantly agrees to the scheme, and they pretend to be a couple writing their names on a sticky note to paste on the notice board. Brian asks her to wait for him while he goes to buy milk tea from another nearby restaurant. Celeste comes out of the restaurant in his absence and is seen by Aaron, who drags her back inside the restaurant as a couple. The staff welcomes them grandly for being their 9,999th customer, but their happiness turns into shock to find the girl with another man, leaving her embarrassed. Aaron takes down the sticky note carrying hers and Brian's names and writes his own name on her hand to remind her that she belongs to him. Celeste repeats his gesture, and a waitress captures the beautiful moment in a picture with them engaged in a fun banter. Aaron even takes the photo and plasters it on the notice board, asking the staff there to call him if they ever see his girl with another man. This makes the staff laugh at their cuteness, while Celeste is left shocked by his statement. On the other hand, Brian receives a call from Clara, who spins a tale asking for Aaron's fingerprints from him. She admits having made Celeste's theft public, but says that it was to save Aaron from any defamation. She then tells him that she needs Aaron's fingerprints to remove her name from the documents carrying the information of the person who exposed the thief's identity, saying she'll be doomed if her name gets exposed. Brian doesn't respond to her request, but keeps thinking about it even after going back. He feels bad for the girl and decides to help her by delivering her a glass containing Aaron's fingerprints. However, he soon starts feeling confused, wondering if he did the right thing. Celeste talks about love with the perfume master, who offers her one of his rare perfumes, and she decides to seduce her boyfriend with it. However, she fails to utter a single word in front of him despite an hour-long practice in the bathroom. She gets frustrated and goes out to practice her dialogues once again, but Brian catches her in action, laughing at her antics. He suggests making his brother jealous instead of acting cute, and kisses her on the forehead to show to his brother. As expected, Aaron leaves the place angrily, and Celeste follows him to explain the situation. However, she soon starts feeling sick due to the direct skin contact Deb just had with Brian, and fails to follow him inside the house. Aaron, who is waiting for Celeste to come after him, soon runs out of patience and goes out to check on her but doesn't find her anywhere. The curiosity soon turns into a frantic search when Brian expresses ignorance about her whereabouts. The day soon turns into night, and Aaron finally finds the alien girl sitting under the tree located far away from the perfume master's home. Celeste reveals to him about her condition of not being able to touch anyone directly, which leaves him confused as he has touched her countless times. Her statement that only he can touch her makes him think that she's just blabbering nonsense, and he hurriedly takes her to a hotel room. Celeste keeps clinging to him for warmth, and Aaron is satisfied with the company, but she goes on to express her love for him openly and tells him that Brian's kiss was just a tactic to make him jealous. The confession brings an anxious CEO peace, and he doesn't even care about the heavy downpour that otherwise always makes him anxious. They go to Spryam contentedly in each other's arms, but soon Aaron's dreams turn into nightmares from the night of his mother's death and the moment when Brian kissed Celeste's forehead. On the other hand, Colton and Clara get successful in hacking Aaron's memory bank, and Clara deletes Celeste's data from his memories. Next day, Aaron wakes up with zero recollection of the woman in his arms and pushes her away from himself, eventually making her fall from the bed. While Celeste is shocked at his behavior, Aaron is shocked to find himself with a girl and throws her out of the hotel room. He then calls and informs Luke about his memory loss once again. Celeste finds Brian in the hotel's parking lot and tells him about his brother's strange behavior. Brian comforts her, saying it might be her imagination, and leaves in his own car, asking her to use Aaron's car. Aaron, on the other hand, refuses to bring her along, saying he doesn't remember anything about her, but Luke convinces him to let her accompany them. He promises to enlighten his boss about everything later. On the road, Celeste gets closer to him once again, but the man pushes her away, asking about her problem. She boldly claims that the thing she needs from him seems to be in his heart, and instantly gets labeled as immoral. He even throws her out of his car despite Luke's attempts to make him understand the fragility of the situation. Aaron then finds himself facing James and Luke, who try to convince him that he was madly in love with the girl until last night, and forgetting her means he's afraid to fall for her again. He gets offended and calls it rubbish, saying he'd never love a girl like her. Luke and James worriedly discuss how the man has once again turned emotionless and decide to get Celeste's help once again. James then visits her at the restaurant and tells her about Aaron's amnesia. He then asks for her help and wishes to know about something unusual that may have happened that night other than the rain. Celeste tells him about her and Brian's attempt at making him jealous, and James thinks that he may have forgotten everything due to jealousy. Meanwhile, Luke tries to remind his boss of his love using the memory bank, but he's shocked to find the data removed. However, Aaron thinks it might be his own doing, and decides to talk to the girl out of curiosity to find out what may have happened between them. Celeste tells him about their relationship in detail, but since he doesn't remember anything, he offers her to take some monetary benefits to break up with him like his past girlfriends. Celeste doesn't accept his offer, but he insists on giving her 3 days' time to decide and leaves. She doesn't like the feeling and decides to remind him about their memories. She hides in his home and sneaks up to him, tying his hands like she did in the past. She then tries to use her power to awaken his memories, but nothing happens. Instead, he loses consciousness. Celeste gets panicked and immediately unties him, only to be pinned down because he was pretending. The couple once again talk about their past, and Aaron tells her to reconsider her offer since he doesn't remember, nor like her anymore. Celeste leaves sadly after telling him that she needs something that might be in his heart. After she steps out of his house, Aaron feels an intense ache in his heart, causing him to slump down. Clara tells Brian to kick Celeste out of the company, but he gets angry at her and goes to Aisha's restaurant to get drunk. He comforts Celeste, saying things will soon be all right. On the other hand, Aaron too asks Luke to terminate Celeste and refuses to accept Brian's request against his decision. When Celeste tells about it to Brian, he asks her to work with him on his perfume project. Mrs. Liu and Kang decide to use Aaron's relationship with the girl to create negative attention towards him, despite knowing that the pair seems to have broken up. Aaron is approached by Clara, who tells him that she's aware of his amnesia and offers to help him get rid of Celeste. The man doesn't get to answer as he's informed about the breakup news being all over the media. Suspecting it to be Celeste's doing, he scolds her for the act and leaves without hearing her explanation. Back to the restaurant, Celeste watches the whole news coverage with Aisha and decides to help Aaron clear his name when she discovers that he has called for a conference to clear the breakup news. Next day, she gets well dressed to attend the conference and tells Aaron that she's doing this to repay his favor of saving the restaurant from the media in the past when he asks for her reason to help him willingly. She also meets Clara there, who encourages her to clear the rumors and sends the media in her direction to answer all their questions. Celeste finds it hard to speak due to her nervousness and past memories, but she manages to say that they were nothing more than boss and employee.